Welcome back, folks, to the 7 steps to starting your medical exercise training practice in any setting. Now, this is step number 6, and this step is now going to look at the idea of completing the necessary training to provide excellent medical exercise training services. So, complete the medical exercise specialist training. Simple. Our medical exercise specialist program was developed by physical therapists to ensure that the fitness professional had a great understanding of clinical anatomy and pathology. Let me explain clinical anatomy and pathology. For the most part, fitness professionals learn basic gross anatomy. You learn organ systems, you learn some muscles, some bones, and muscular attachments. But when it comes to managing medical conditions with exercise, especially if you're going to communicate effectively with doctors, therapists, and chiropractors, you have to understand clinical anatomy and pathology. And clinical means this is where we look at the disease processes, we look at the anatomy from the standpoint of more what types of conditions and pathologies are going to be impacted by the anatomy and or the pathology itself. So in our medical exercise specialist training series, we go into depth into clinical anatomy and pathology based on regions of the body. We have clinical anatomy and pathology lessons for the hip, the knee, the shoulder, the lumbar, the cervical spine, ankle, foot, elbow, wrist, and hand for the entire body based on regions. We also provide an understanding of medical exercise training protocols and guidelines. Folks, you can no longer provide fitness services and then take those fitness services and apply them to the medically based client. It is a completely different thought process and a different ballgame. To manage the medically based client, you must have an understanding of clinical anatomy, pathology, and medical exercise training protocols and guidelines to apply those training protocols to individuals with medical conditions. You must also be able to identify the inappropriate client. When we put the medical exercise specialist certification together back in late 1993, we had as many as 21 medical professionals that reviewed our curriculum. And the concern across the board was for each of those medical professionals that was part of our review process, would the fitness professional be able to identify the inappropriate individual and refer them to medical services? That's where we came up with the term red flags. We've identified several red flags that every medical exercise professional must be able to pick up and identify in the screening process to ensure the inappropriate client isn't put through medical exercise training when they're in need of medical services, whether it's services of a physician, physical therapist, and or chiropractor. And the medical exercise education must be protocol-based to provide an excellent exercise management process. Folks, in personal training, it's more along the lines of finding the right exercise to target the particular muscle group so the client can lose weight, gain strength, or gain endurance, whatever the case is, or have a better athletic or some type of performance. But when we look at managing the medical condition, we now are looking at it more from using exercise as part of the management process for the condition. We realize now hypertension or diabetes or total joint replacements, exercise is part of the overall management. So as a medical exercise professional, you now must understand where exercise fits into the overall management process and what your role is as such. So you can go to medicalexercisespecialist.com, get information on our internationally known medical exercise specialist certification, as well as postrehabconditioningspecialist.com, which is our entry-level certification for individuals, fitness professionals that are looking to just begin to step into providing medical exercise and or post-rehab services. Now, this presentation is pretty short because we just simply talked about our certifications, but picking a certification does constitute the 6th step. Now, you've already gone out and you're thinking about making a presentation. You've already established a target marketing list. You put together the signature program. You've got to have the education to do all this stuff. Now, some people would have said, well, this should have been step number 1 or step number 2. No, I think once you start looking at all the things you want to do in medical exercise training, you realize after looking at all these other steps, I've got to get the proper training that's thorough, comprehensive, and is based on guidelines provided by medical professionals. So please go over to postrehab.com to get more information. Also, look at the link below to download your 7 steps to building a medical exercise training practice ebook. And if you'd like to get in contact with me directly, you may email me at drmike@postrehab.com. Thanks again, folks, and please stay tuned for step number 7.